Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
Hello. We don't have timing! We've never met!
Steve Baxy's back, ladies and gentlemen.
He's back.
Back again. Tell a friend that Baxy's back. Okay, no, it's not going to be a thing. You guys aren't going to join in on that one?
That was literally a thing when I was in elementary school and I went on vacation for a week and I came back a week later.
Oh, so I'm giving you, like, terrible traumatic flashbacks right now, huh?
Yes. Middle school.
Keep going.
I don't know if anyone else has this, but middle school is always the worst years of your life. Always.
Well, okay, so, like, middle school is that interesting time where, like, everyone's like, all right, finally, we're out of elementary school. Now we're going to be, like, grown-up kids, and we're going to be just like the high schoolers that we see on TV. And then there's 3 years of just everyone acting like they're in high school, but, like, a poorly written TV drama high school.
Yes.
And then by the time you get to high school, everyone's just exhausted with that, and it's much more chill.
This is true. High school is great.
Yep. Anyway, so, also, Alfie's here. Yay.
Yay. Thanks for that. I don't get a song. I just get Alfie's here. Yay. This is
Well, like, goddamn it, maybe you should go back in time, tell your mother to change your name to something more singable. What kind of fucking song am I gonna do about Alfie?
what's it all? There is a song about Alfie.
Is
I
there?
don't know it.
Yeah, it's like, what's it all about, Alfie? I got fucking, that was my teased song about that everywhere I would go, is that. But
I don't think anyone knows that song. Yeah. You should feel bad. Anyway, so since Steve is back again, we're giving Steve reign on the topic. And what topic did you decide you want to discuss, Steve?
Today, we are talking about Easter eggs because there's a lot of them and they're everywhere, and now they're strategically designed and put in movies on purpose, and people talk about them and make videos about them, and they're methodically planned out, and I hate them.
You hate Easter eggs?
I hate them. I didn't used to. Now I hate them. Easter eggs are stupid, and if I have to see one more comic book creator's last name as a street sign, I will fucking kill someone.
Really?
Yes,
It bothers you,
it's
like, even on
stupid.
that level?
It's so stupid.
Okay, why are Easter eggs stupid?
Because no. I came up with this topic and I just had a reaction to it. I have no idea what I'm saying. You have to go first, and then I'll.
God damn it, this isn't fair. All right. See, like, when it comes to Easter eggs, I tend to think about movies from, like, the, mid-2000s where they first started really popping up. That's when, like, Stan Lee had cameos, but they weren't a big deal. And then, like, they immediately went way overboard with it, like in Fantastic Four 2, where he's like, I'm Stan Lee! And it's just like, no, that's dumb. And then they kind of backed off a little bit, but now they're just, you can do a whole fucking movie of Easter eggs, right?
Endgame?
Yeah,
I like Endgame. I'm just saying.
yeah, I mean, it's yeah, pretty much, that's a good point. Anyway, but, like, yeah, so they have kind of gotten to a point where they are unruly and thus cannot be ruled. And it is...
Again?
What?
What does unruly mean again? I'm confused.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's just, I don't know, like, why did they put the foot down on the gas to the point where, like, yeah, you're right, people make videos about it now, Like Mr. Sunday Movies, I like a lot of his content, but one thing I never watch, and I can tell is one of those things he does just for the views, is every Easter egg in Spider-Man Far From Home, every Easter egg in Avengers, just every time a Marvel movie comes out, every Easter egg in, and it's like, what's the point if someone's explaining them? You know?
So here, now that you said that, I think here's my thing, and here's why I hate them. Because I have like very visceral reactions to certain kinds of Easter eggs and not others. There's Easter eggs, which are just references that are fun. There's foreshadowing, and then there's Easter eggs in the form of foreshadowing. And all anyone ever does now is either that or create some sort of weird conspiracy theory around something that might be an Easter egg, even though it's probably not. So, examples. License plates in Spider-Man Far From Home referencing seminal issues in Spider-Man, that's fine. That takes way too much work, and it's really nerdy, and I love it, and I'm totally here for it.
See, I didn't even notice that. That's funny.
Yeah. There was actually a Mr. Sunday Movies video about that I watched the other day, so there you go.
You're part of the problem, Steve!
Okay, so I didn't watch that video by choice. Anyway. And then there's... Have either of you guys watched Ip Man? The three Ip Man movies with Donnie Yen?
Oh,
No.
Ip Man. I thought you were saying Hitman. I'm like, yeah, I watched both of those. They suck.
No, not those. Not those. Ip Man is actually good. No, Ip Man IP with Donnie Yen. Ip Man was the guy that trained Bruce Lee, famously. At the end of the second movie, the last like 40 seconds of the movie is some kid knocking on his door saying, "My name's Bruce Lee, and I want to learn Kung Fu so I can beat up people that I don't like." And then he just smiles at him. And that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. And it's an Easter egg, but it's also foreshadowing because Bruce Lee's a main character in the third movie. So that level of Easter egg, where it's not even really an Easter egg, it's just literally looking at the camera and being obnoxious, but not funny, I hate. Easter eggs that take way too much work that no one else would ever possibly notice are fantastic. But then there's that weird middle ground that I also really, really hate, which are conspiracy theories about things that don't matter that become Easter eggs almost retroactively. So Tom Holland's Spider-Man being the kid that Tony saves in Iron Man 2. That's kind of dumb.
Yeah, it is. And it's what? Well, that's just not. I don't know if I'd even consider that an Easter egg. I just consider that retroactive continuity. Like,
So that's fair. Maybe that's retroactive continuity. Okay, but then maybe something else, like the colors in this one scene are clearly a reference to this other thing. Therefore, this thing is happening.
Okay. So here's my question then: at what point is it no longer an Easter egg, and at what point is it just storytelling via filmmaking techniques?
It's not an Easter egg if there is function to it.
Okay, because I like the channel Super Carlin Brothers. It's kind of one of my guilty pleasure where it's just very like it's a YouTube darling kind of series. But like they do fan theory videos. They're really into Harry Potter. They do a lot of Harry Potter fan theories, and they did like a whole episode on this moment in the last Harry Potter book where Harry's wand shoots golden sparks, and they're like, all right, so here's my fan theory on what this means. And then he does literally just analysis of the novel from an artistic point of view, looking at the metaphorical significance and symbolism of golden sparks. That's exactly what he does. But he does it in the language of, here's this wacky fan theory. And so I wonder if like the neck-bending shenanigans we go through to spot Easter eggs has now just become the way we interpret filmmaking techniques as part of storytelling, and if the two are overlapping and it's becoming a problem.
I think that's definitely the case because you just have to see how much speculation and I guess just reporting on these things has become the norm for just geek culture in general. Like a lot of sites get most of their clicks and revenue from speculating on Easter eggs. We made a joke about Mr. Sunday Movies thing, but that probably does contribute for some of his biggest videos as those Easter egg videos. Some channels are entirely dedicated to like clickbait thumbnails, dissecting the Easter eggs, and it's become kind of a cycle where every time a new Marvel movie, I think specifically because they're the biggest, most successful advantage of this, is every time they pop up with a callback to an obscure comic, say that came out in like 2005, 2006, it would have been, like you said, Steve, where it's like only the nerdiest of the nerds could notice it and it's just like there for the fans. But because we've kind of crossed the threshold where everything can now become a franchise, where nothing's off the table, those obscure references can now be taken as, oh, is this seeded for phase 4? Like that's become what the industry is trying to propel its continuous hype. Because when there's no more movies coming out to talk about, people just dissect what tiny little things they have to try and make content.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's the thing that bothers me, is that I'm not trying to be gatekeepy about this. I'm the exact opposite of that. I don't care if people feel like they're in the know or not. Everyone should be able to enjoy these things. But the whole point of an Easter egg is that it's just fun, that there's nothing to it. So here's another example. When Iron Man 3 was coming out, there was a lot of speculation that Obadiah Stane's son was going to be in the movie. And you can have conspiracy theory, fan theory stuff about connecting the first 2 Iron Man movies to Iron Man 3 and coming up with a reason for why Ezekiel Stane would be in it. But there were literal articles coming out about the Easter eggs in the first Iron Man movie, saying that Obadiah Stane has a chessboard in his bedroom. Therefore, the chessmen are going to be a part of the MCU. Like, what the fuck is that? That's not an Easter egg. No one knows who they are. Why do
That's
they matter?
just set design. God damn it!
It's not an Easter egg.
So, like, I guess what you're getting at, Steve, is you don't have a problem with Easter eggs. You have a problem with the way people are reacting to them and just attempting to read way too far into them. And, you know, you're right, but at the same time, I'm trying to think of an example where something was just a throwaway and then it actually, you know, someone else actually ran with it. I don't think we'll find them in the movies. I don't think there's quite enough been done in comic book movies to really get to that level yet. But I think if we talk comics, we can talk about like Easter egg little throwaway moments that actually get turned into big deals later on. Or at least, you know, set up foreshadowy stuff. Like, I was reading Jeff Johns' Flash run with Wally West a year or two ago now. And there's a moment where, like, Flash has a really bad day, and he goes to visit Barry Allen's grave, and then Barry Allen comes back from the future and tells him, hey, this is going to be the worst day of your life out of the 3 worst days of your life, and so I'm just here to talk to you, kind of talk you through it. And then, like, Hal Jordan shows up as the Spectre and is going to, like, magic everything right for Wally, and Hal and Barry are kind of on page for a minute, and Barry tells him, you'll get yours soon, Hal. And then what do you know, like 2 years later, Jeff Johns starts writing Green Lantern Rebirth.
But see, that's not an Easter egg. And that's more like functional foreshadowing or just like a wink and nod thing. Like, there's nothing about that that's like a reference, except until you get to Jeff Johns writing Green Lantern. Like, in the moment of reading that issue of Flash when that first came out, no one's thinking that that's a reference to Green Lantern Rebirth.
Okay.
So like, maybe another good comic book example would be like when Ed Brubaker has Captain America go on a tirade in his run when he's in the flashbacks in World War II about how brave and noble the French soldiers were, as a jab at Mark Millar for Ultimates, where Captain America says, does the A stand for fucking France? Like, that's an Easter egg.
Okay. All right. I don't know, like, I'm just trying to think of, like, because it's one of those things in comics that happens all the time. Like, there's just, oh, here's this little, you know, goof character kind of thing. William Hand. I'm going to stick with Green Lantern because I'm in a Green Lantern mood. William Hand. Black Hand. His name is an Easter egg to Bill Finger. And yet he actually, like, kind of it's just kind of like a silly throwaway character. And then he kind of becomes, you know, one of the most important Green Lantern villains at one point.
Or Charlie Brown, Kite Man, in Tom King's Batman run, where they actually do something with the fact that he's named Charlie Brown.
Mm-hmm. Oh, brother. Like, yeah, so like you get those moments where it's like this little kind of throwaway joke thing, and then the character kind of becomes something. So why I wanted to bring examples like that up is because it's not that there's not precedent for it within comics, and I'm sure if you think hard enough about it, there's got to be something in the MCU somewhere where it was initially just going to be a throwaway, and then someone decided to turn it into something.
Maybe the Tony Stark Iron Man 2 Captain America shield that never gets brought up again.
Oh
And that
yeah,
kind of-
I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. I think they did too.
Entirely an Easter egg because they knew they were going to do this, but when you watch the montage of everything the Winter Soldier and Hydra did in the middle of Captain America Winter Soldier, and then what's his name? Zola, yeah. Zola says a thing where like accidents happen, and it's a picture of the Winter Soldier and then a picture of a newspaper where the Starks die. And then lo and behold, Civil War is about Winter Soldier killing the Starks. But that's not really the same thing because they knew they were going to do that.
Yeah, that's just foreshadowing. And that's the real difficult part is like, when is something just purely an Easter egg? When is it foreshadowing? And can it be both? Can it be accidental foreshadowing? Because that's something that happens, particularly in comics, you know, where like, oh, this character is just, oh, Dr. Hurt. Dr. Hurt, he's just a fucking random doctor-looking guy in the background of one panel in some old Silver Age comic that only Grant Morrison read, and then he becomes the main villain of his entire fucking run. That's such a thing that happens. Oh, and there we go, MCU stuff. All right. Spoilers for Far From Home. The fucking guy that Obadiah Stane yells at, you know? Like, it's just some random fucking extra actor, basically, and then he gets brought up later as a villain. Like, it's not that there's not precedent for this shit just accidentally happening or someone going, you know, we kind of just have this character sitting here, let's do something with him.
Okay, well, hang on. To be fair, guy Jeff Bridges yells at is not a random extra.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else knows the story, but apparently Jon Favreau was best friends with this guy ever since they were kids, and he cast him in Iron Man just as like a friend thing. But that kid is the kid from A Christmas Story.
Really?
Yep.
That's craziness. Okay.
Yep. That's an Easter egg.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, I think like stuff that's so obscure or like casting that is personal to people maybe makes it feel more like an Easter egg than something that's purely like you can tell was like pitched by like a marketing team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the Arrow is the biggest problem with the whole like creator street sign things, where like literally every street ever in Star City is named after some random comic book creator.
Well, Gotham has that
Okay,
problem
if you're
too.
a Tom King fan, you cannot be mad at that.
No, but see, that's the thing, is that everyone does it now, and it's one thing if you just do it because it's an easy way to rope in a reference, but it's another thing when they like just systematically plan these things out, like Arrow and the Arrowverse in general kind of do, where the Easter eggs are not really Easter eggs anymore. Everything is planned out and everything's so obnoxiously in your face. Like, if you watch later seasons, it's almost like they're pausing on the names so people get the joke. In a way where, like, if you flash back to Ben Affleck Daredevil, and that guy who's talking to Matt Murdock's dad lists off all the boxers that his dad beat up, and they're like Bendis, Miller, Mack, and they're all the Daredevil writers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's something like sincerely and functionally different about that than what Arrow does.
No, you're right. It's just that... Is there something to be said that it's so expected now?
Yes.
And it seems to be one of the only ways to give some of these guys, or not just guys, some of these creators the credit they deserve that, like, they never really got from the companies, you know?
No, I agree. I think on some level that's something that needs to happen, where Easter eggs are one of the only ways you can give exposure to these people. But on the other hand, they can just become really obnoxious and manufactured, and they're just saying the same things over and over again about the stuff you think you know. Like Stan Lee cameos, I hate them. I've hated them for a really, really long time. Stan Lee cameos stopped being interesting after like Iron Man 1.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some of us that they work sometimes. Sometimes you can tell when they're very like forced. And it's like, okay, now we got to film the Stan Lee cameo.
I'm not saying he never did a good cameo after the first Iron Man, but after the first Iron Man, it was clearly a manufactured thing.
I think that's fair. Which is weird because they predate the MCU super hard. Not even Spider-Man. Like the old the Incredible Hulk show where they tried to start a Daredevil series. He's in the jury in that. Like it's crazy how much those things predate the MCU.
It's totally fair, but when there was a lot less comic book movies and you didn't see a Stan Lee cameo 6 times a year, there's a little bit more. There's something a little different about that. That's all I'm saying.
No, I mean, you're right. What I'm finding interesting about this conversation is you're not wrong about the assessment, but at the same time, when it works, it works. You know?
No, totally. When it works, it works. When you see a good Easter egg, it's great. But the problem is there's so many of them now, and so many of them are designed to be found. And if they're designed to be found, they're probably not really Easter eggs.
Well, I mean, when you went Easter egg hunting, oh wait, you're not, you're a godless heathen. When you went Easter egg hunting, didn't your parents make it harder every year? Like when you're a kid, they got to make it super fucking easy because otherwise you'll be out in the yard for like 3 hours on a Sunday morning, and who wants to deal with that shit?
Well, and this is why Easter eggs are poorly named, because Easter eggs are designed to be found. Easter eggs in film are not really designed to be found. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't, and it's fine. It's just it's a thing you throw in almost as an impulse or just as a wink nod kind of thing. It's not a thing you orient a scene around or something.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Like, that's the problem here. Is like, there's no argument for, no, Easter eggs being super obvious and in your face is the greatest thing ever, because it gets a little exhausting. At the same time, I notice them more in the stuff that I'm, like, attached to the source material on. I feel like a lot of times they just kind of pass me by. It's like that weird thing of, like, product placement was super annoying for people when it first started, but now we've had it for so long that it actually feels more natural, and I honestly get more weirded out when I see a character drink, like, beer brand beer.
Yeah,
on television or film. You know, like, it's just... I'm so used to streets being named after comic book creators that I don't know, but like I can tell because they linger on the sign or whatever. I think it's just kind of become the visual language of the comic book movie to a certain point that I'm like, it'd be weird if it's just like, he's on Smith Street on First. I don't know. I think that would feel like if it would make it feel less lived in.
So. This is again, and this is weird because I'm not even close to a Spider-Man person, but I also feel like the Spider-Man movies are doing this in a way that's better than every other MCU movie because they're designed from the perspective of just high school movies and not superhero ones. In Homecoming, when Peter's in his classroom and it's like science class and there's like a picture of all like the famous scientists in the background, we got like Tesla and Einstein and Newton and whoever the fuck else, there's a black and white glamour shot of Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner. Which makes complete sense in that universe. Or like when he's in the principal's office, and one of the pictures in the principal's office is a picture of a Howling Commando, because the guys, both characters are played by the same guy. So he's like a descendant of one of Captain America's original Howling Commandos. Like that kind of stuff is great, and I love that. And no one's going to like force you to say that's wrong or don't do it, but there's a legitimate difference to that than everything else.
Yeah, Alfie, you've been too quiet. You take on the Baxi, who is unleashed and clearly has been saving up all his energy for this battle.
Well, if Baxi's unleashed, I'm just waiting for him to turn into a werewolf. So I guess I think like a good question I want to ask you to see where you can go with this, because I totally agree with you like the Homecoming thing. A lot of the places there I feel a lot more natural, simply because they wanted to make that film with in mind of, okay, Spider-Man's in the MCU and we can do a lot more tangential shit just to make the world seem the same. So you get to see what a school in the MCU would kind of look like. So Captain America's doing the things. So I think that makes sense from both an Easter egg, wink and a nod. You can miss it, but at the same time of just being like, oh, this is just lore. Do you feel like there's ever a time where you've had something that's been a wink and a nod, but has also enhanced the story for you?
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, that's a harder pull. Do you have something off the top of your head, Alfie?
See, it's one of those things where I don't even know if it's not intentional because Toriyama never thinks of stuff like this, and I don't even know if it counts as an Easter egg, but it's just something I always noticed is the fact that future Gohan lost an arm and then regular Gohan's down to one arm versus Cell at the end. Like I like that stuff. Like
cute.
I think yeah, that's cute. It's something like that. But I also think like you can, if you wanted, you could go thematic with it. I can't think of something that would be a legit Easter egg off the top of my head. There's probably been one, but I can't think of one at the moment.
I'm having a really hard time thinking of anything even remotely close to that I would like. I mean, having so many Matrix actors in the John Wick movies, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, that's almost a little too meta. It almost needs to be something a little more in-universe, you know?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
It is, but like, it's hard because I know I've experienced that at some point.
I mean,
just-
sometimes retroactively, like the scene in Age of Ultron where they're all trying to lift Thor's hammer is so much funnier after Endgame. But
It's a little annoying with the Russos coming in on it, but...
I know.
They're J.K. Rowling everything.
I know.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. Those two guys can go to hell.
Okay, I've got one. It's like, it's an Easter egg, but it actually does enhance the story a little bit. And I damn it, I spent it last week on the Two-Face episode. Okay, so when Batman is beating the shit out of the Joker in the interrogation scene that's inspired countless other interrogation scenes in every fucking superhero movie since, he forces two addresses out of the Joker for where Harvey Dent and Rachel Dawes are being kept. And he says that one of them is at 250 52nd Street. Which, if you know Two-Face's gimmick from the comics, that everything's gotta be in twos, and somehow boil down to a two somewhere or another, that's really, really fun-ass Easter egg. And the second you notice it, you're first gonna notice it because it sounds like a fake-ass address. Like all movies do. You know when like a character's like, oh yeah, here's my number, 555-0134. Yeah, no, that's a fake fucking phone number. 250 52nd Street. How would you even put that on a goddamn envelope if you wanted to mail someone at that address? That doesn't make any sense. But so you're gonna notice it as a problem because it sounds fake, and then you're gonna think about it for 2.5 seconds. See what I did there? And come up with what it is if you actually kind of know Two-Face from the comics. So there's an example of, hey, here's a little Easter egg for the comic stuff, and it actually kind of works and makes this character feel a little bit more like Two-Face from the comics, which is kind of neat.
This one might be also a little meta, but I think it kind of works. At the end of Blade Runner 2049, when Ryan Gosling dies, it's the theme from the end of the first Blade Runner for the Tears in the Rain speech where Roy Batty dies.
Okay. And see, that, I don't know, there's stuff like that. It's those little references, those little nods, just tying things together. It does become really cool, and then it's almost like an Easter egg has to be completely superfluous, because the second it becomes anything else, it's now just, good writing. and it's just good metaphor and stuff, right? Like, that's the problem with Easter eggs. They can only be useless. Because the second you make it anything else, it's no longer an Easter egg.
Well, half the fun is that they're useless because you're not supposed to think about them. You're not supposed to be like in awe of them. You're not supposed to see 6,000 YouTube videos of when the new Marvel movie comes out about all the Easter eggs you probably missed. Mm-hmm. Like, the moment it becomes an industry, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. So what do you do about it?
I think the only time where because like everything, there's going to be a time where people just get sick of it. Obviously, Steve's further along than all of us. He's ahead of the curve. But
Thank you, okay?
I feel like maybe even before that happens, the moment the idea of it's already happened for other people, but Marvel's like the big bastion of it. The cinematic universe idea, I feel like, is what's really, because we're slowly moving out of that era now that DC's decided just to throw their hands in this era and say fuck it, and every other studio that tried it crashed and burned. So they're more focusing back to where we were before, with individual films with maybe the more light-hearted references where like people will throw out like a name or something.
This is why Superman works alone.
Yeah, precisely, that kind of shit. And people were like, oh my god, Superman exists. Whereas Marvel's still continuing it, and it's still using it as a hype machine for future installments. Whenever that ends, if it ever ends, or whatever happens with that, whenever there is like a definitive, just like, okay, MCU, this is the end, we're either going to reboot or we're going to do something, I don't see them moving straight away into doing like another long narrative like this. I could see them doing like the DC thing after that in like 10 years from now or something, 20. So I think then it will happen, simply because there won't be that cyclical nature of, okay, we need to feed the media by giving them Easter eggs that we can then post on like comicbook.com with like a paragraph article and say that's news. Like, that's what we need to do to prop up all these industries that have been built around this media empire. And when that stops, we'll lose the focus on the Easter eggs, and they'll go back to just being fun rather than just being designed for the industries.
Yeah, because one of the things that Marvel did really well, that Disney always did really well, that got hyper exaggerated when Marvel was bought by Disney, is that Marvel's really good at controlling the hype. And Easter eggs are a fantastic way to do that, when you can just like manufacture in systems of things of like, well, it's an Easter egg now, but maybe 5 years down the line it's part of the movie and you can say it was foreshadowing. Like, Marvel's super good about that. They've turned it into a system at this point.
It's almost like some kind of Marvel method. You know, so here's another question then that's kind of tickling my brain. How many times have Easter eggs kind of fucked up things for down the line?
Okay.
Like, I don't think it's as much a problem with the
Green Lantern 2011. Because you and I have this argument, and I am still not convinced you're right on it, because I still think it's stupid and it fucks stuff up for down the line. Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds movie, Green Lantern, whole movie, Sinestro and Hal Jordan are kind of like going at it because they have to stop Parallax somehow, and what's his name, Sinestro, is like convinced that, okay, will is not strong enough, so we have to fight fear with fear, so let's harness fear instead of using will. And then Hal is like, no, fuck that, I'm going to destroy Parallax with willpower alone, and he does that. And then there's an Easter egg post-credit scene stinger thing at the end where he puts on the yellow ring, and it makes no sense. Because why would you do that? If you literally just saw the situation where will was clearly more powerful than fear. You put it on because you want people to know that you're going to be evil Sinestro in the sequel. But that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Okay. Here we go. So I had a whole sequel for Green Lantern 2 planned out. I was planning to make a video on it, and then I decided I didn't want to be that guy. But I was going to fix that problem with one line. And it was going to be Hal making that exact argument. I beat Parallax with will! I showed you that will is stronger than fear! And Sinestro was going to say, Parallax was a mad dog blinded by hatred. You beat him because he was an idiot. You tricked him into going into a sun. You didn't prove will was stronger than anything, Hal. There. That was my one sentence fix with that.
That is totally fair. But for the sake of doing a post-credit scene Easter egg, that whole movie makes so much less sense.
No, I mean, you're right. It's one of those things where you have to justify it, and that's kind of the problem, right? So like my one sentence justification is great, but yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that scene, as just like as a Green Lantern fan, as someone who actually really likes Sinestro, and as in my opinion Sinestro's origin has never really been given the meat that it deserves, because I think it could be a really interesting supervillain origin. It's a superhero that went bad. That's we don't do that enough as like a proper in-depth where they get to continue to be a villain and we don't try to justify it. Like that could be really interesting. And so like I was really excited for the prospect, and I was hoping like, okay, you got to kind of remember some of the stuff going around the movie. Like they'd apparently greenlit 2 sequels before the movie was even out. And then the movie tanked financially, so they shut those down. But like I was really excited by the prospect that, Sinestro put on the ring at the end, and if you watch the movie, pretty much the whole time he's the one suggesting that they use fear. That's suspect. Like, what if he was doing this whole manipulation? Like, there's possibilities. You could have made it work in a sequel, but standing on its own, nah, you're right. Doesn't fucking work.
Well, and the MCU is not free of this either, because half the post-credit scenes of Phase 1 make no fucking sense.
Yeah.
Oh god, I love The Consultant. I love the short film The Consultant so much, because it's such a fucking like... It's literally like some guys on Reddit made a short film, you know?
To explain away Incredible Hulk.
Right? I actually really like The Incredible Hulk. It's probably one of my favorite, at least Phase 1 Marvel movies. And it's just so, like, this bastard child of the MCU. Nothing from it sticks anymore.
Yeah.
We set up the leader, we didn't use the leader. We set up, Edward Norton, who's a much better actor than Mark Ruffalo, and he bails out. We set up the Abomination as a villain and kept him alive, which is something the MCU has a huge problem with keeping villains alive, and we got rid of his ass. It's just nothing from that movie is stuck. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's
wait,
one of these...
hold on. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry, but I gotta tell this story.
Go.
So, this was a while ago. We had this stoner that was at work. He was very annoying. I'm glad he quit. But he did leave me with this gem. He's just like, I was watching the Incredible Hulk movie for the first time. And then it get to the end, and the Hulk's fighting, like, bad Hulk. I'm like, you get that bad Hulk, good Hulk.
Every Hulk story ever?
Yeah, pretty much. I really like that line. You get that bad Hulk, good Hulk. Okay, go on, Alfie. I'm sorry.
Well, again, I was just one of the things. This is maybe an interesting one, but it's kind of got the J.K. Rowling syndrome of being added onto after the fact of finding out this is what the original plan was, but it never got into the actual film, so it didn't fuck everything up, but it could have. Because when they were planning, when the DC Cinematic Universe before BVS was like in its heyday, and they were still thinking, "Oh, this is going to be great," they would announce the Nightwing movie, and that got into production. But also, BVS, everyone knows, has like the Dead Robin thing, and everyone just automatically assumes, "Oh, that's Jason Todd." Then Zack Snyder comes out and is like, "Oh yeah, that's Dick Grayson." But they had a Nightwing movie in the plan. So I don't know if they talked about that and that's why they get it put in, but he just says, no, that was still the plan to be Dick Grayson. That's why I never said his name. So I have no idea what the fuck that would have been if anyone knew that but Zack Snyder.
The DCEU, I think, actually made some smart decisions, just very, very poorly. Marvel was always designed to be a universe, and so, everyone's always in New York and stuff, right? So it just kind of works a little bit better. But DC, of course, was all these characters just founded, and then they just started, appearing in each other's books. Fun bit of trivia. The very first comic book to have Batman and Superman on the cover together did not have them meet in the story, and I can only imagine how disappointed so many fucking people were. Anyway, so, the DCE, though, I thought actually made kind of a smart decision, which is just to say, oh no, fuck it, everything's a pre-established universe, Superman's just late to the game. And that just works so much better for DC, because trying to justify the characters meeting post-origin is just such a mess whenever DC tries to do it anyway. Just throw that out there.
No, I feel it. I think someone phrased it best, where maybe it was even Grant Morrison, because it sounded like something like he said, and I think that is his quote, is that Marvel's like a tailored suit from like these great masters of their craft, but it's like, you know what you're going to get. Like everything's going to be that suit. It's not going to change. Whereas DC's like a rainbow colored tapestry made over hundreds of years that you get to wear and can be anything you want it to be on that day. And I think using that for Easter eggs specifically, I think maybe that is why Marvel's still so... Okay, even in like the X-Men films and like they always fuck each other so badly, they ruin their entire timeline with the Easter eggs of characters they pop up in there. That's like obviously the worst offender there, but they try to build off it a lot more. Whereas a lot of DC things tend to just throw shit out there because the worlds are so separate anyway.
This is why Batman works alone.
Yeah, but that works so well because you can just drop in any Batman story, like even Year One, which is this super fucking serious, hardcore Frank Miller Batman. They're like, oh, there's a guy that can fly in Metropolis. We're never going to mention that again. And that's not important to this story or this world. We're still going to treat this as the real world, but that's over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you got like Superman the Animated Series where like it's in that first 3 episodes where Clark's deciding what he's gonna do, and Ma Kent says, "Oh, I don't want you wearing a mask like that maniac in Gotham." And it's just it's always so cool. You're always like, ooh, like when they reference each other like that. Side note. Did anyone really want to see the Joel Schumacher universe Superman?
Yes,
I
please.
really wanted to see. That would have been great.
That would have been.
I guess it would have been Nicolas Cage, huh?
I wish
Legit.
from the Burton movie with Joel Schumacher style.
I would have been so thrilled just to see what his Metropolis would have looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know. Weird. Yeah, DC seems to just do that though, where they just like do these wink wink nudge nudges and then they have no idea how they're gonna make it happen. Which, you know, Justice League was just a fucking accident. How crazy is that? It's like, let's just throw the Justice League together in a book because it seems to be working well over in Marvel. What? You didn't think to do that?
This is what happens. Every creative decision in comics apparently happens over a golf game, where someone decides, "Oh, hey, let's steal that idea," and then we get stories.
It's funny. It's just hilarious. Oh man, Steve, take us somewhere else on Easter Eggdom.
Somewhere else on Easter Eggdom. Video games. I can't believe we haven't talked about video games with this subject, since video games have arguably been the people that invented and pioneered this whole system, right? Like,
Yeah, I suppose so.
like video game achievements and Easter eggs and callbacks and stuff like this is this is like a literal feature of most games where like if you're in a franchise and there aren't any Easter eggs, it's almost like you've been cheated.
Yeah, and like, I mean, video games just by their nature had to have like secret stuff to kind of motivate people to play the shit out of the games from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I mean
Yeah,
it
so,
works,
like-
right? Like who the fuck would have kept playing Spider-Man PS4 if it didn't have 6,000 Easter eggs?
That's my life. Just feel attacked, Steve.
True though.
How are you gonna just call him out like that in the middle of recording?
Just saying, it's true.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, you know, they needed like extra content just by design back in the day because, like, you know, I watch a lot of speedrunning videos, which is hilarious because I'm terrible at video games. But like, Mario 1 has been optimized to the point where people can beat the game in 5 minutes, and like when you realize that, you realize how little content there is in the game itself. It's hard, but once you've got the skill down, it's a very easy game. And so, like, they needed to, just by necessity, give people that got good at the game stuff to still strive for. And so, once, like, adding entire bonus levels and skips through the whole game got old hat and not justifiable to the budget, they had to find other ways to give players that same kind of satisfaction of finding a thing. And so Easter eggs just kind of became the natural go-to, right?
And they're functionally different in video games than they are in like movies or comics, where the problem with movies and comics are when they stop the story or they stop the narrative to focus on an Easter egg. Since video games are the exact opposite of that, and you can waste your time doing whatever you want, it just makes sense to have thousands of Easter eggs. Arkham City is another really good example of this, where Arkham City would not be anywhere near as playable as it was if it wasn't for all the Easter eggs and side missions.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, sometimes games get really self-aware of it and start like really poking fun at the fact that people just wander around for hours looking for shit. Like, I remember one of the levels of Ratchet and Clank, you like land on a planet because you're pursuing someone across space, and you see them leaving as they land, and they're like, "Ah, man, I guess we're a little late." And then Clank's like, "We always seem to be a little bit late. Why is that?" And then they look at the camera, and then you're just like, just gonna fucking call me out, little fucking robot bitch. So yeah, it seems like that's just the nature of games. Like, everyone's aware that you're doing it, so you kind of have to try to justify it within the story itself. And so, you know, you mentioned the Arkham games, fucking Riddler trophies. They have to create like a story-based reason for those.
Well, and there's so much of that. And most of the time, you don't even have to have story-based reasons. They do that in the Arkham games because the Arkham games are that weird middle ground between people that play video games and don't play video games. So you have stuff like RPGs, where RPGs are just endlessly grinding for hours and hours and hours on end for no story reason whatsoever, for meaningless objects. And they're all just Easter eggs. Like, how many hours has any of us logged into this, like, Skyrim? Like 150 hours to get everything. Or like, if a more geeky example, like the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games, where you just spend hours and hours and hours getting every possible skill. And every time there's an update, they add more skills.
I feel
or
that.
Pokemon, gotta catch them all. Like, literally, it's the exact same concept.
So, like, is it that weird case of like video games perfected it too early and then everyone else is just trying to catch up?
No, I think it's just that people don't seem to understand that there's a sharp divide between how you experience certain kinds of media. So Easter eggs in comics are not necessarily as bad as Easter eggs in films, which is arguably just as bad as a video game with no Easter eggs. And it's, I don't remember who said this. It's a really, really generic quote, but the basic concept is, if movies are life with all the boring parts cut out, then video games are life with all the boring parts put in. So in a movie, you don't want that boring, mindless search for meaningless things. In a video game, that's literally all it is. So if there are no Easter eggs, it's effectively not a video game anymore for a lot of people. Like, if there were no achievements, who would still play most games? I don't think video games perfected it. I think video games are just the only place where they make sense the way they're designed. And everyone else seems to think that they can just do that, not realizing that they aren't video games. Video games have this problem where they try to be too cinematic sometimes, and movies have this problem where they try to be too much like video games sometimes. Like, the ending fight scene in every comic book movie ever just wishes it was a video game, and every superhero video game ever just wishes it was a movie.
Because they're trying so hard to tell stories, and they're trying so hard to make action work, even though the story might not justify it at the time.
Yeah. Even arguably, like, classic, quote-unquote, classic video game franchises just kind of wish they were movies, like Kingdom Hearts. Like, if you skip the cutscenes of Kingdom Hearts, it is a fraction of the length.
Yeah.
There's so much less playtime than there is just watching cutscene time in that franchise. Same with Final Fantasy.
Metal Gear is like the biggest example, I think. It's just 99% of like Metal Gear Solid 4 is just cutscenes.
Literally, yes. It just make a goddamn movie.
I remember watching my brother play video games. Oh my god, I invented Let's Plays. I remember watching my brother play video games. He was playing Metal Gear Solid 2, and I was really into the story. And then there's like the ending boss fight, and there's like a good 20-30 minute cutscene, and he's just like sitting there trying to skip it, and it doesn't let him for some sections of it, and it does for others, and he's getting really annoyed that he can't skip the whole thing. And I was really annoyed at him for skipping any of it because I was really into the shit. So
I'm sure the final cutscene for Metal Gear Solid 2 alone is like 40 minutes.
I mean, I would not be surprised. I've never had the motivation to go back and play it because, I don't know, games where you shoot people just don't do it for me all that much. Unless you make it really creative shooting people like
Which is
Ratchet and
ironic
Clank.
because that's the only reason I play video games.
The duality of man.
We're two sides of the same coin, Steve.
Yeah,
We're not so different, you and
about
I.
how bad Easter eggs are, only to admit that they're amazing in video games.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. What's something else we could say about Easter eggs? Because we need like another 10 to 15 minutes here, guys.
What do you think of like the deep video? Because we were talking about the video game ones with like the collectibles and like posters and stuff. What do you think of like the Pokemon games used to do this, and especially like classic video game franchises back when it was just like indie developers just fucking around? When there's like Easter eggs in like the code of the game, and there's like messages and like behind walls you can only find if you hack shit.
I think, is it window? Do you have to open up text editor? What do they call it? DOS. Do you have to open up DOS? I think you can put like the Konami code in DOS and it plays like a text art version of the first Star Wars movie.
Yeah, the old Zelda games used to do that a lot too, where like if you put in the code, it plays the theme song or something, or like it puts up the notes to it. That kind of stuff is really cool. I think it's outlived its either replicatability or coolness, because part of the thing with video games is that they didn't get easier over time, they just got better designed over time. So as fun as old school platforms are, the reason they're so difficult is because the controls suck. And so now that controls generally speaking don't suck, it's really hard to make a video game with those kinds of like deep pull programming Easter eggs, because you're not expected to know the code for the video game because it's so complex.
Right.
That
Trying
said,
to
though,
figure it out.
Pokemon video games have had Easter eggs for generations, and all of them are amazing because all the Pokemon games are amazing.
I'm glad you got
Pokemon
that
Go.
on tape. Yeah, the community is currently going crazy for that, so at least there's some goodwill from Steve here.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Sword and Shield is kind of hurting my faith in the franchise, but we'll find out. It's not November yet.
All right, so apparently this works. Everyone do this at once on your respective computers. Let's see if this is if this is real, because I've only heard about it. I've never actually tried it. We're all on Windows, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Windows R should open your command line. All right?
Windows R, you said?
Yep, window key and then the R.
Okay.
All right, you got a command line open up?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
All right. TEL L NET space towel dot blink EN lights no spaces dot NL. Enter. Ah, damn. It didn't work for me. Did it work for you guys?
Well, Ian, you stole my bank account details. I don't know if that's
I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm fucking doing, or maybe I'm too updated.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think this works on the new way commands work.
Aw, boo hiss. Oh, well.
Yeah, so okay, I think what it is that you need like the actual command prompt. You don't just need the run, and that's what Windows has
Okay.
now is the run.
Aw.
Yeah.
How do you open up the command prompt
I don't
properly?
think you can anymore. You might be able to. I don't know. I'm not a computer guy.
I guess that just proves Steve's point that we've got so
Exactly.
efficient.
Exactly. On some level, this would have been cool, but it kind of doesn't work anymore.
There you go. With practical examples on Geeky Gentleman for the first time. Facts and
Ah, okay. You gotta get just type in CMD. That's how you get it to open up actual command prompt.
Ah, so much work. Fine.
Fine. just take it. There. No. Come on, Control V. Why doesn't Control V work? This is bullshit. No wonder no one codes like this.
Hey everyone, what was your favorite episode of Geeky Gentleman? I like the one when Ian tried to hack his computer for a long time.
How about the episode of comic reviews last night where I sit there and try to fucking no, it doesn't work. I'm sad now. Where I sit there and try to fucking figure out how to create a post on YouTube and then link that post in my in my comments, in my live comments, and then figure out you can't link to posts, which is dumb.
Ian Harrington, master hacker.
One step
Like,
forward,
what?
3 steps back.
Yeah, like, oh, cool, YouTube's letting me just, like, post a quick message to my subscribers without having to create a video that's, like, 2 seconds long with me saying, hey, I'm not going to do this tonight. That's great. It's like Twitter, but for YouTube. That's fantastic. Now let me just share this on other oh, no. Can't share it. That's pointless. Like, you can't even share a direct link or anything. You gotta just share it to your fucking YouTube channel, and then what are the chances it actually opens to the right tab?
Well, now it'll be an Easter egg.
There you go. Functionally
There we go.
useless but funny. Easter egg.
Yeah. I'm disappointed I can't watch Star Wars text art, god damn it.
I mean, you can. Just go on YouTube.
It's not the same. It's like the okay. Does anyone have an example? Like, I'll go first because I got one. Anyone have an example of something you were like legitimately surprised by and felt silly for being the only one legitimately surprised by finding like an Easter egg? Because I remember YouTube back when it was running on Flash. You know how it has like the little circle loady bar thing when it was buffering. If you got really impatient like me and you like held the down arrow for 2 seconds while that was buffering, you could play Snake.
Oh, yeah.
I was so shocked and surprised when I figured that out, and I was like, oh, hey guys, turns out you can do this. And my friend Bobby replied to me like, fucking Ian, everyone knows you can do that.
That's fun.
And I felt so silly for not knowing. Do you guys have an example of an Easter egg where like you were legitimately like, oh my god?
Finding out in Enter the Dragon that Jackie Chan was a stunt double and Bruce Lee snapped his neck.
Is that an Easter egg or is that just a thing you notice?
I don't know. I'm kind of blurry on what their line of Easter egg is at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that legitimately was just like, okay, and kind of changed the way I play. So, in Sonic Adventure 2, you can like, apparently, Big the Cat is like in loads of levels just hiding. And for all this time I played that game so many times, I never noticed that. And then so I saw a YouTube video about it, and it really creeped me out because then I was just like, oh my god, he's been there the whole time.
Oh, you know what? I think I got one. At the end of the second Pokemon game, where after you beat all eight gym leaders, you unlock the previous region and get to go through and beat the first game again, and then battle your character from the previous game.
Oh, is that what that was all about?
Yeah, that was the coolest fucking shit ever as a kid.
Okay. I don't know. It's just, I don't know, it's interesting. I don't think they're all bad. It's Steve, of course he's got to dramatize the
I did not say they were all
Easter
bad.
eggs.
I'm just saying I'm pissed off.
So it's Thursday then.
Yes.
um,
I just need my milk and a nap.
Water is wet, Steve is pissed. The world spins on. Okay. Alright, well, it's a little unfortunate, but I don't really know what else we can talk about with Easter eggs. Let's get fucking meta as shit. Do any of you have an Easter egg, like legit actual Easter egg hunt story that you can share? Anything remotely like stand out as actually funny or anything? With your parents just being a bit of a dick?
I remember there was one Easter egg hunt where my parents put the last egg inside the sewage drain pipe and it got stuck in the center. And like if I wanted it, I had to like clean out the drain.
That's a dick way to trick you into doing chores.
Yeah, that pissed me off so bad. Like, wow, you did all this work just for me to do more work.
Yeah, that's actually really impressive. Good job, Steve's parents.
Fucking asshole.
The only one
How
that-
about you, Alfie? You got
Yeah.
anything?
So like I don't think it's like a story of like parents, but they used to do primary school. I don't know what that would be for Americans. Just the youngest stage of school is when you're
Elementary.
like yeah. So we would be like sent on like Easter egg hunts with the teachers, like as like it's so stupid and it always pissed me off even at that age. It was like a tour around because the way my primary school worked is there was like a big ass field like right at the next to where the garden would be. So like there would be huge just field that kids probably shouldn't be on, but apparently the land was just part of it. So people would just like, oh, go wild. And they would like take you around where like some trees and stuff and they'd guide you to where the eggs were. And then they'd like, they'd grab the egg and be like, wow, look what you found. You accomplished this. And I don't think a single child in the class ever was happy or thrilled. It was just like, you probably should just left us to go and find this shit. No, you're right. They did the Marvel method, but they're just like, here's the Easter egg. Here's the post-credit scene. You found this. You stayed in your seat in the theater. You did this. You know this. I didn't have to find it. I didn't have to work for it, and I cheated the game, and not only myself.
Nice.
That's just mean.
Okay. Yeah. So my story about actual Easter eggs is so my dad was just like my dad didn't really get into the whole holiday thing. Like I wanted to bake cookies. Like I was talking to one of them like, oh, I'm coming over for Christmas. We should like make cookies and stuff. And I got there and he just like bought cookies because he just didn't want to deal with that shit. He wasn't the most jolly fuck. And so like one time I wanted to spend Easter with him and do an Easter egg hunt at his house. And he was like, oh, he clearly didn't want to do this, but he was the sporting type. So he like, he put the eggs in their pretty basic spots. And then there's just one egg left that I knew I needed to find. And he's just sitting on his car, which my dad didn't normally do. He's like, the best place to hide something, Ian, is in plain sight. I'm like, yeah, I know. I can't find it. Where's it at? He's like, just in plain sight is always the best place to hide something. And it's just sitting right next to him on like the fucking bumper of the car. I'm just like, did you even try? Did you just like fucking? All right, let's put this here and put this just in the grass and okay. So yeah, shitty stories. Okay, all right. Well, I guess that'll do it for Easter eggs. Did we thoroughly bash all the YouTubers and their all of the Easter egg videos?
We did, because Easter eggs are stupid.
Okay, good job. Way to take something that everyone else is cool with and enjoying and just destroy it. Steve's back.
Yeah. What I do? Like.
Yep. It's your fucking brand. Oh, man.
I destroyed it with facts and logic.
All right, now we need to make this a clickbait thumbnail.
Yes.
Steve, shocked reaction face, an Easter egg and an Easter egg bunny with a gun next to it, a red circle, a red arrow. Steve Baxter destroys Easter with facts and logic.
Steve's got to wear like a low-cut top, and I'm going to Photoshop some like just massive cleavage onto it.
Do it. Do it.
Oh, it'll be the most clickbaity thumbnail ever. Like the egg's cracked open and it's like Geeky Gentleman logo inside the egg. Yeah, this will be some good shit. Okay. Anyway, Alfie, we need a review topic for next week, sir.
Yeesh.
Far from home.
Far from home. It just came to me, my spidey sense was tingling, and it was almost like a voice from the ether reached in and told me something that I didn't know on the spot. Yeah, that. So
it'll be like 3 weeks late, which is pretty typical on brand for Geeky Gentlemen. So yeah, sure, okay, Far From Home it is.
I just
everyone
wanted an excuse to see it again.
Good enough. Good enough for me. All right, everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
You can't get the timing.
I was specifically trying to wait you out for that one. I'm a geek for fun.
I forget what mine was. Bye-bye.
No, make one up. This will be like the 4th time it's changed. Do
God
it
damn
now.
it. What was I? I used to be the politician, then I used to be the exile, and now I'm the skull.
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 Oh, because you is there any justification, or you're just
I have a
desperately
plastic
trying to
skull
keep
on my
together?
mantle, and it's staring at me.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.